Hello, Honeyfeld.
Hi, it's been a while.
Just a couple of years.
Did you miss me?
I always missed you. Wish you would have called more.
Well, you never look into my eyes when we kiss anymore. Now, I noticed you got the memo to wear a black shirt, unlike, what was it, like 20 odd years ago? What happened 20 odd years ago?
Are you talking about us going to a Kraftwerk gig together?
Yes, us going to a Kraftwerk gig, yes, where we cried.
We did cry.
And then what happened the next day?
We met up for lunch the next day, and obviously we were both into the Kraftwerk t-shirts, but we did happen to buy the same one, didn't we? So we both ended up in some, I don't know, some pub area or somewhere wearing the exact same blue Autobahn t-shirt looking like Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Man. And you said, we can't do this, I'm going home, I'm getting changed.
Really? I was that precious? I would know.
You did.
Wow.
You did.
There you go. See, I am a real idiot. CJ Bolland, who's been making country music for how long? Is it country music? I keep forgetting.
Similar, it's similar, with a twist.
With a twist. A country electronica. No, let's be serious for a moment, David, you know.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Be serious for one moment, please. So how do you describe the music you've been making for what now, is it 30 years?
Ish.
Oh, yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Can't even remember. Yeah, probably, yeah. Longer than that even, probably. Released stuff since 89, so that's 30, well...
32 years.
23 now.
Yeah.
Almost 34 years, so yeah, a ridiculously long time. There wasn't even a name for it then, as far as I can remember. We weren't even really talking about techno yet, but we were making music with technology, and as Kraftwerk so aptly described it in Music Non-Stop,
yes,
techno pop.
Techno pop, yes.
It's pop music made with technology. So that's what we did.
And do you love technology?
I used to. I don't understand it anymore. I need 15-year-olds to explain it to me now, how it works.
Exactly. But hang on, there's nothing wrong with 15-year-olds making techno. It's perfectly fine. So my first question, which, you know, I've been saying to you for quite a while, is, and because, you know, from where you started, 89, and now we're in the year 2015, 16. What year is this?
It's 2023, since like day before yesterday.
Okay, well, it's 2023 apparently. So, and I know there's so many different subgenres of techno. You can even Google it and see how many subgenres there are.
Please tell me, because I have no idea.
So quite seriously, a serious question. What is techno? And what is techno to you? Because I know it's subjective. So what is techno to you? What was it? What did it evolve to? And where are we now?
Well...
Or you know what? You can answer it any way you want.
Well,
I'll
answer the only way I can, which is just by from my standpoint, which is basically when we started writing tracks, we were using a lot of electronic equipment that was available to us then.
Like this stuff?
Or like this stuff that we see here, lots of knobs.
Yeah.
Lots of buttons, very hard to synchronize stuff to each other, if you remember back in the day. It was everything that was awkward and difficult, but we made it work somehow. And that was our release. I tried playing guitars, I took drum lessons, I even played a mandolin for a while. That didn't go very far. I played keyboard, I played piano, I took piano lessons, everything just sort of like was a bit of a dead end street because I couldn't get to where I wanted to get with it, and with this technology I could like write the whole song myself. And like I said, Kraftwerk came up with this word techno. Maybe they weren't the first, I don't know, but that's where we got it from, and that kind of stuck. And anything that was like drum machine, all this kind of equipment related, just got the label techno. So we weren't dividing it into styles then yet at all. There was just techno, right in the very beginning. As far as I remember what we were doing, there was a couple of spin-off names like Acid House, because somebody called the track Acid Tracks. That used the 303 for the first time in that way, where they were tweaking the knobs while the track was playing, and just because it was called that that took off as an extra style. But things were just really starting. It was all techno, and it just spun off into different names.
Okay, let me ask the question differently.
Go on then.
All right. So if I was an alien and I came to the planet, well, actually, I am an alien. How would you describe what techno is today? How do you describe the music?
Again, there's no simple answer to that, because even then there was so many. It was broader than just the dance floor.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people will think of techno nowadays as like, this is strictly dance floor music. This is what we go out to party to.
Yeah.
We'll listen to it in the car on the way there, but whenever we listen to it, it makes us want to dance. Whereas there's a lot of techno that doesn't make me want to dance, but it just makes me want to lie down and listen, even close my eyes and listen to it, like stuff like Plaid or Plaid, depending how you want to pronounce it, or Tekra, those kind of guys. There's ambient techno, there's all this kind of stuff. It's like I said, for me, it's just technology-based music, but it has been stigmatized a little bit with the dance floor, because obviously, predominantly, that's what happens with our tracks. People dance to them. So but it's like the next evolution from disco. Disco was like, let's make people dance, but we'll do it with like acoustic instruments. We'll do it with real drums. We'll do it with a bass player. We'll do it. We did it with all this gear.
And we have a lot to thank for disco as well.
Oh my God, yes.
We're building on the shoulders of those giants. So the disco thing is actually, a good segue. So do you think, and this is not a trick question, I'm not trying to trap you, all right? No, I'm not, Do you think techno, and it sounds like a dumb question, do you think techno has evolved for the better, for the worse, or it's just a natural evolution of, say, electronic dance music?
Well, a lot of stuff's happened, obviously, in the last 30 years, including...
Well, I got prettier.
Yeah, for me, the opposite. But the gear itself, obviously, has evolved insanely. We've gone from, like, pure analog, almost unsyncable, unsequenceable stuff to, like, everything computer-based and back again. I mean, look at all the stuff behind you. This isn't all stuff.
All the stuff behind us.
Well, yeah. This isn't stuff from the 70s or the 60s. This is recent bought gear because people want to get hands-on again with the equipment.
Well, no, some of this gear is actually from the 70s.
Well, some of it is.
80s.
But I'm just saying,
here,
what I'm saying. And obviously some of it is, but I mean, a lot of them...
CJ, don't disrespect my studio, CJ, please. We can stop this interview right now.
It's all cheap plastic stuff. No, but you know what I'm saying? The equipment's evolved a lot. We went through the whole digital period where everything was computer-based. We didn't even need any of this gear anymore.
Yep.
That was a bit boring as a producer. For me, I just didn't really I just couldn't be bothered with that because it was literally just drawing lines on the computer screen. And then we came back to this because it, like me, everybody else got bored with that way of working. So get the gear involved again. And if you're lucky enough, like you, and in my case, I have still some of the old gear as well. To have all this old gear, but it's all really expensive stuff if it's the genuine old gear. But you can get it all again now in clone versions, in reissues, and the Eurorack stuff that now just like literally, does anything Eurorack and stuff? Everything. Eurorack stuff. That encapsulates all that stuff that we were doing then, but you can do it all again. But it's all easily to hook up to your computers now. Some of it has USB, or at least has MIDI. It has all the kind of stuff that we were struggling with back then, all in one. So there's the possibilities are literally endless now. So
just for clarity, you're saying, much like how I work as well, you started off with actual hardware itself.
Only hardware.
Sequencers.
Only hardware.
Drum machines.
Pre-computers.
Yeah. And then you started using computers.
Yeah.
Right? And the computers were only just MIDI. They weren't...
The computers was just an extra tool just to record the MIDI.
Yep.
But basically a MIDI sequencer. That was all you could do with it. 1 megabyte of MIDI on the Atari ST. Well, this is what happened to me when it all went computer, and it was all literally, like I said, about the MIDI sequencer turned into a MIDI audio sequencer. Yep. It was hard disk recording, and it was recording straight to the computer. I kind of got bored with that quite quickly, and I kind of stopped writing techno for a while there because
When was that? When was that?
that would have been 1999, 2000, and that was I had like a good run of 11, 12 years of like banging it out, and I just got a bit bored with writing the stuff and the way things had gone. So
okay, so why did you get bored? What was boring about? Was it like the gear? Was it just you know, an effect of the scene, or getting older, wiser?
A bit of all those, a bit of everything.
Okay.
Mostly, I felt I'd been there and done all that.
Okay.
And at that right moment in time, I met somebody out of the rock scene who was really intrigued by what we were doing in the electro techno scene, and he approached me and he said, "Hey, look, I love what you guys do. Would you be up for hooking up one day? Maybe check out, you know, see what we like listening to, see the stuff we're into, and then maybe try faffing about a bit in the studio." I said, "Well, I've got a studio. I've got a little recording booth, but it's mostly techno oriented. It's obviously full of like electronic equipment." But he came down and he brought his guitar. Like, what are we going to do with that? All right, well, let's go on then. Get in there, do something. And literally, very quickly, this whole new world opened for me again, where we were bringing in musicians instead of programming, sequencing everything, and that was a whole new thing. And I literally, for a couple of years, forgot about writing techno altogether, because like I said, I felt I'd been there and done that, and now suddenly I was involved with a bunch of live musicians that were coming into the studio. We were getting string quintets in and stuff like that. We were getting horn players, all kinds of stuff.
And so what was
double bass players?
And what was the name of the project?
Magnus.
Real, it's like curb and steel, but quick. It's flash revenge. Just get that wrench and a blown up binge. It's your pick. That's it. Click, click. Secret life of tires and old forgotten wires. That's hip. Click, click.
Do I feel it?
That's hip. It just wants to be music. That's it. I don't wait for the perfect time. Got no time for the perfect light. The stuff is for free. It's what you throw at me. Give it. Gonna be in your back room. Gonna work with my dark room. Gonna close with my zoom. Give it. That's it. Click, click.
Magnus, which we did for 20 years. We've let that go for a couple of years. Now we'll probably pick up on that again in the next couple of years. But whilst all that was happening, obviously techno didn't stop. It kept evolving. Everything was doing things. In the middle of the noughties, what we call them, what would you call them, the nillies or the noughties? I don't know what you say.
Just before the turn of the millennium?
No, after the turn of the millennium, like the 2000s, the 2000s.
Oh, the teens, the early 2000s, the teens?
No, the teens would be 2010, so it's the nillies or the noughties.
I'm asleep at the moment, so...
There you go. I'll wake him up in a minute.
You're saying the early 2000s?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarity.
The scene went very minimal.
Yep.
That was less fascinating to me as well, because I don't know why. This is how my brain works. I like maximal stuff. I like a lot going on. Has to be in the right spot, but I like a lot going on in my techno. But minimal can be insanely good as well if you're really good at it.
Totally.
But there's only a handful of people, or at least there were then, that were genuinely really good at it.
And isn't it ironic? Because I would say that your early work was actually quite minimal.
Well, that
right?
depends how you look at it. I remember you describing electro. You said to me, "You know why we love electro so much, CJ?" And I was like, "Come on, tell me." And you said, "Because there's so few things in it." And I never looked at it that way, because I thought it sounded really full because of the sound itself. The sound makes it sound, the spectrum of the sound makes it sound really full.
Early work was quite minimal, but it sounded, the effect was that it sounded very large and, maximal.
But I would be layering stuff from all angles.
Totally.
And the art was to not make it sound like it was all like it was too cramped. That's the whole point with maximum.
Totally, yeah.
If it sounds cramped, it sounds terrible.
Well, I guess that's your superpower. That's why. I guess that's why you became, a seminal artist, and your tracks, your early tracks, or your tracks were rather important, and were at the the spawn that European techno, the Belgium, the R&S thing, and all that. And I hope I'm making sense.
Well, I obviously don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
I just look at it from I was geographically in a good spot, I think, because we had the German influence, which was the EBM music from the 80s. Belgium was a very EBM country. In the 80s, it rained all the time. It was our winters are long and dark and cold, and this dark, grungy but electronic based music, like,
and the Cold War, you were saying. I remember.
Well,
when I
yeah,
was
the
in
Cold
Europe,
and the Cold War was a real thing. We grew up with that in the 70s in school. We used to literally once a month and a bell would go off, and we'd have to go under our school desks, and we'd be hiding from the atom bomb. How's that gonna? What the school desk is going? Yeah, that's gonna save us. But we would have literally every month a drill. Because a potential nuclear war could break out at any time. We're almost back there again, although we're sorting that out, I think.
But we have techno, and we have a number of 303
anyway,
clubs.
this whole influence on this music, and this music was dark and I loved the sound of it. This is way before there was any mention of techno or anything like that. And so that was one major input for me. And also, I grew up with very musical parents. We had a nightclub at stage as well. My mum was playing disco, she was playing funk, soul, all this stuff was very influential to me as well. And then I met a lot of guys in the UK because I was living in Belgium.
Yep.
I met guys from the UK when I used to go over and see my family, and I'd be meeting people, musicians and stuff that were into like because there was a big Jamaican influence in London. There'd be a lot of reggae, there'd be a lot of ska, there'd be those kind of styles, and it's all just input, and you get it from anywhere, whatever hits you and whatever you like, you just don't even think about it. So that goes into the music. But like I said, I would layer stuff quite heavily, but try and make it so it doesn't sound layered, so it doesn't sound too cramped, so the music still comes across. And
that you had obviously your own kind of unique, sonic palette, even though the gear was quite limiting. I think what some people, or especially younger artists these days, may not know is that we didn't have the access to all these sounds, be it via machines or samples or what have you.
That was the best part about it.
That's right.
You had to get the most you could out of whatever gear you had. And like I said, with all the problems that the gear had as well, like you couldn't synchronize most of the stuff together because they were all talking different languages. That had the first thing that had MIDI was just coming out, but the other stuff only had DIN sync. Other stuff had DCB.
Yeah,
all these kind of different ways of synchronizing. You had to. I mean, it was just almost impossible. So we'd even be just like beat mixing a 303. With like an MS-20 with an old SQ-10 sequencer. Yeah. And we'd record it as long as it was in time. Then we'd stop, and then we'd hit the tape play again, and then record again, and then cut the tapes literally physically with scissors or a blade, and then splice the tape, and then glue it back together again.
And these days it's interesting because I see so many people so worried about timing, and I can't control this or I can't control that, and it's like, it's almost like my best advice is you've got to live with that limitation.
Oh God,
because that's what breeds these great outcomes and these creative outcomes. I mean, being so precise, really,
is a limitation in itself.
Well, exactly, but it's a negative limitation.
Yeah.
Whereas the 303, and we know the story, and we'll others will have to spend another couple of hours, or you go read my PhD or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, if we go back to and this is not to reminisce about the olden days or anything like that. We're not trying to be old men here.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. Tell me, what is one of the what is a piece that you're either Let's try that again. What is one piece or one work that you're most proud of? And it's a right here, right now question, because when you see this, when we publish this, you'll probably go, oh, fuck, I should have said something else.
Well, you're giving me more time to think about it. So what's going to happen when you publish it? Say that again. Oh, Matt, see, that's an insanely difficult question to answer when you're talking about your own stuff. But it's just spur of the moment things like when Horsepower happened. I did the whole track before I discovered this pedal. It was an old Korg flange pedal called the FLG1.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just those moments. I mean, it's not so much being proud of. It's just one of those moments where you go, oh wow, that just really gelled it. That just really happened right there. I've done this whole track and I'm really happy with it, but there's something missing. What do I want to add to this track? And I knew it wasn't extra sounds, extras, because there's plenty going on. I didn't need anything else. It was just something not quite right with the sound. And then I just saw this guitar pedal. It was like, because it was in the R&S studios, and so I hadn't seen it before. It wasn't my own pedal. And I was like, what does that do? Flange? I kind of know what a flanger does. And it just sounded stupidly like insane flange. Like with all the technology of today, you can't make a flanger sound like that stupid little 4-knob pedal that just went, I was like, what the? And I just put the bass line through that. Yeah. And just, the track was already there. Just ran the bass line through that and my head just went, whoosh, whoosh, just went like this. And wow.
What was the synth that went through the actual pedal?
The MC202, which I believe you have one right there. There it is.
Yeah, am I? Oh no, I'm at the light there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Can you see it?
Just there.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best 303 evolutions.
There you go.
Okay? Because it's a 303 with a more sophisticated sequencer.
But even more pain in the ass sequencer though.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because it doesn't even it can't even do the slides properly, you know. And that's what's so awesome.
I don't know. This is a genuine question. I don't know whether it is an evolution. I thought that was actually first, wasn't it? But I might be wrong. Put the 202 not before the 303. I don't know that.
Well, that's a good question. I'll do my research. I believe the 202 was before.
Yeah.
Right? Or around the same time or just before. I think it was more to manufacture as well because it did have a microprocessor. So it may have come just after the 303. Anyway, this is all rubbish. You'll see down below, or I'll put a slide in giving you the right information. Yeah. But it definitely has this, it has the same chip and very similar sound to 101, which is also very close to the 303, and it does have the accent and slides or portamento, and it does have the accent that will actually you can either choose the amp or the filter driving the accent, right? Which was.
But and somehow it was just even though the 303 is not the easiest sequencer in the world.
I'm going to pick it up now.
Pick it up. Even though the 303 isn't the easiest sequencer in the world, for some reason you can easily, you almost can't do anything wrong with the 303. Whereas with the 202, it was hard work to get anything good to happen with the sequencer.
Totally. So the sequencer, the thing with the sequencer on the 202 was that you actually had to have some formal musical training.
Yeah.
Because it had like this stuff down here. I don't know what are they called. And it's got like this quasi keyboard.
No time.
Yeah, I can't play keyboard, but I still use this in live sets all the time. I mean, it only holds 2 sequences.
Yeah, 2 patterns.
And it doesn't retain it in the memory. And no, I don't use tape. And no, I'm not interested in modifying it. It's the limitation is what is really great about stuff like this. So, okay, so horsepower. So, We touched on electro,
We did.
you know, and I remember when I was in Europe, staying with you, living with you, that's all we listened to was actually electro from the 80s.
80s, yeah.
Or early hip-hop. So, what is it about electro that you love so much?
Well, that's like I said. That was probably. I don't know. Maybe it was around about the same time as the EBM stuff was happening. I don't know. That was like the American thing that was happening. So we had our dark, cold wave, as we used to call it, which is like a very dark electronic version of new wave, happening in Europe. And the Americans were much more brighter and much more happy about it. And they were doing this electro poppy thing. They were teaching us all to dance properly, moonwalking and breakdancing and all that stuff. And like, it wasn't Michael Jackson that did it first at all. But yeah, so and again, it was a very electronic based sound. It was the beginning of hip hop, basically, as far as I remember.
Yeah, it was early hip-hop. Well, actually, it was hip-hop.
Well, yeah.
And the word electro kind of evolved somewhat out of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think
it was a Street Sounds compilation that named it electro.
All right, well, there you go. It's the same thing when somebody names one compilation or one track something, that sort of becomes a thing.
And that's the same for techno, because you had the house sound of Chicago, and then you had, you know, Detroit, and Detroit didn't want to call it house music because they somewhat felt that Chicago owned that label. So they changed for that compilation, that seminal compilation, they changed it to, you know, the techno sound of Detroit.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that word, as far as I remember, was used first by Kraftwerk, though. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the word techno was used by people like Kraftwerk. Again, the association with technology as well. And I guess maybe, well, there's lots of great, you know, texts on this as well. You know, Dan Sicko, who is unfortunately passed away, did a great book. I've got it somewhere here. Techno Rebels, that's it. And also the Codwo Eshin book, More Brilliant Than the Sun, is an excellent book if you want to track not just the history but also the mindset and the whole creativity of electro and techno and house music as well. I might flash it up.
I might read it.
Actually, it's been re-released as well. So electro and the sound, because we all know that the sound of electro pretty much is the 808 that's sitting just in front of us. All right? So what is it about the 808?
Oh, wow. Well, when that machine came out, it literally changed the whole history of everything to come, basically. That was the first drum machine in being a fully programmable, meaning you can create the pattern that you want, whereas before that we were calling them beatboxes or rhythm composers, or not even, or what is it, drum computers or whatever, all the different names that went by.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereby you had pre-programmed patterns, you could combine them sometimes and it would create strange rhythms, but you could never really you couldn't start from scratch and do exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah. The CR78 kind of had some quasi, but the 808 really was.
The 808 was literally like, you do exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it sounded insanely good. The sound was just incredible. And it went over all the styles that were using it in pop music, in soul. I mean, Marvin Gaye was using it. It just went everywhere because the sound was incredible. Combined with some awesome producers of the day, people like Arthur Baker, that used them thoroughly, used them properly. Egyptian Lover. I mean,
Rick Rubin as well, and you know.
Well, of course. Well, the list the list goes on. But
this goes on and on and on. Anyway, it's not a history lesson, but yeah.
But so we were first confronted with it as well before I was even a teenager. Probably when I was 9 or 10, even I would have thought, what was it? But 81, 82. When did it come out? The 808 was it 81? I think.
Early 80s, yeah.
Early 80s. We were first confronted with it in early pop music, early wave music. early EBM music, like Front 242 were using it, the Neon Judgment in Belgium were using it.
But do you think?
Sound.
Do you think, you know, and you talk about the sound, and we all love the sound. I'm not disputing that at all. But do you think that those early adopters of, you know, the 808, you know, like, Yellow Magic Orchestra, and people across the West who were using this in Europe, and the early, hip hop artists, do you think they bought it because of the sound? Or do you think that we now,
the novelty of it, the fact that you could literally just program anything you wanted, and then the sound was the extra bonus, was the icing on the cake. We know and love this sound, and it's still the most used drum sound that there is. Hip hop now is all 808 kicks and snares.
Oh, you can't escape it in pop
music. It's just everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere.
It's not just...
that surely is because of the sound. Because they're not even using 808s to do it. They're using 808 clones and 808 samples and stuff. So that's literally about the sound. But for us, it was the fact that it was a machine that you could program what you wanted. And guess what? It also sounds really good as well. So so it's not just about the sound when we were using it. But the sound made a hell of a difference.
And... Okay. I was going to say, that was the end of that.
Especially when you used it wrong, like Egyptian Lover did, and he accidentally had it hooked up. That's the story I saw on YouTube that he was telling. He accidentally had the engineer hook it up to the mixing desk. He said, I want all the outputs separate to the mixing desk, and the engineer accidentally hooked up the trigger output to an audio input as well, which was never meant to be used as a sound. It was meant to be a trigger to clock something else. But it sounds great as well. Even the sound that's not meant to be a sound sounds fantastic. That's you'll
and there you have it. That's kind of like somewhat of an industry secret that you just heard. Okay, going back to yourself and your career.
Yes.
A precarious question. You can tell me to go fuck myself. I don't mind.
Shall I do that before you ask the question?
How do you think you've managed to stay relevant? And how have you managed to continue to be successful?
Again, oh my God. There's no secret to that. It's just, you just plod on. As far as I know, I just kept doing what I do. I don't know that I am still relevant. Thanks for saying that, but I wouldn't. There's so much going on at the moment. There's so many artists out there. I'm very happy that I still get booked. I'm very happy to still travel around the planet. I'm here in how do you call it? Straya.
There's no other L is silent.
L is silent.
In Australia.
So there's still something going on.
Well, you're still making music. You're still being booked. You even did a remix for what's that?
Honeyfeld? That Bond villain Honeyfeld?
Well, in all seriousness, you did an amazing electro remix.
The relevancy for me is the passion inside. It's just you want to.
So that's the key, right? The key is that you do what you love.
It's the only key.
Right.
That's it. That's all it is.
That's a great takeaway for early career artists. It's like it's not about genre, sound, machines, software, hardware. It's that if you don't love what you do,
not a jot how you do it.
Yeah.
As long as it feels bloody good.
Yeah. And so, is there something that you love about the actual, I guess, and it's in a broad sense, the scene today? Is there a scene today? Is there something to love? Is there something to hate?
Well, there's plenty to hate. There always has been, but it's no different than 30 years ago. I see a lot of contemporaries complaining now about how it all went cheesy and it's all business techno and it's all gone too broad and too mainstream. Yeah, when we first started, we were getting ignored by everybody.
Yeah.
It was the underground scene. There was the occasional very underground radio station that would give us 2 hours a week, kind of thing, and we were excited about that. We'd get 2 hours on the radio. Wow, we're on the radio. That was like incredible already. But we were ruling it in the nightclubs. So we were kicking it on like on the raves, literally the underground, probably back then still illegal raves, and so that was our thing. Then obviously it grew. A lot more people got involved. Money was to be made, so obviously everybody picks up on it then, don't they? When there's money to be made.
Well, everyone needs money.
I know, but I mean, when the money gets big,
yes,
then suddenly it's festival worthy. Suddenly it's TV worthy. Suddenly it's. I mean, back then MTV. I don't know if that even still exists here. We don't have it anymore, but. Whatever, just that was the first thing they were the first to pick up on it back then with like a weekend slot called Party Zone, and they'd be they'd be playing our tunes after midnight. That already was a big deal because we were on telly after midnight on a Saturday, but who cares? We're on TV, and then it all broadened out and got huger and huger. Now, I'd see there's like. I don't know percentage-wise how many more people are involved in the word, and it's a lot bigger, obviously. But it still seems to me that the percentages between how many people are really in it for the right reasons and the wrong reasons, and how many people are doing it strictly for money, and how many are just doing it because they're passionate about it, those are relatively the same. But there's a lot more music. That also means there's a lot more great music.
That's right, yeah.
Which there just clearly is, and that's what I love about today. And it's sort of similarly, even though we don't go record shopping like we used to because they almost don't exist anymore. And I still, every Thursday was always the record shop day. We'd go to 4 or 5 different record shops around 2 or 3 countries. We'd go to France and to Holland on the same day to like several records.
Because
we could, because it's not that far when you live in Belgium. Similarly now, okay, we do Beatport, we do different sites, we go buy our music digitally, but still, you have to dig for it. It doesn't get rubbed in your face. It never did. The good stuff is always somewhere at the bottom underneath. Like you got to, like that was my saying back then. If you want it from the underground, you got to dig deeper, and that hasn't really changed. That's why it's not. I wouldn't say frustrating, but it's a little bit annoying that a lot of my contemporary peers are whinging about the fact that it's not what it used to be in the 90s.
That's just old people.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the same. There's
the
plenty of good stuff. Go and look for it. There's plenty of good events. I mean, for sure in Europe. I mean, I played good events. I played a great little gig. Well, it wasn't even that little. Couple of weeks back in New Guernica in
Melbourne.
In Melbourne.
Yeah, for Eat the Beat.
Fantastic, like proper into it techno crowd. And I could go out to anything, Berghain, Berlin style, underground electro meets wave meets techno meets it, just do it, whatever, it's all good. So it's all there. Yes, you've got your big mainstream stages. We've got our big Tomorrowland festival in Belgium where like it's like 3 weekends now. It's expanded again. And every single day of those will be like 150,000 people from all over the world. And literally, it's not about the music anymore. It's literally become like a bit of a Disneyland for.
Yeah, and I guess that's why older people complain, because they're not, dare I say, kind of in touch. But
they see a guy chucking cakes at the audience, and he's not even standing behind his booth. Yeah. He's not even playing. He's throwing cakes into the audience. I won't mention any names. Everybody knows who he is. Throwing cakes into the audience, and he gets paid $1 million to do that. And then like the real artists are going, what is that all about? Well, but it is what it is. It's entertainment on a different level. It's not what we do.
Yeah, but you need that so the
underground can be underground.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything is in balance. Yeah. You can't have yin and yang. You can't have
I agree
light without the dark.
And that's why I say it's no different than it was before. We had that back in the day. Totally. It's just it's more obvious now, and it's a bit more prominent, and there's a lot more people involved. But I love where it is now. I love it. I think the scene is fantastic now.
Oh, totally. Like, we never thought, well, I certainly never thought that I'd be doing this in my 50s. Yeah, it's like, and here we are, we're talking about, old shit or, and new shit. So going back to gear, what is some of like, your favourite pieces of gear these days?
These days?
Like new gear.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I'm not scared of software. By the way, I love my software as well because there's so much great stuff. I'm a big fan of Arturia.
Yeah.
Because what they offer I mean, they're not paying me to say this, but this is the God's honest truth. What they offer in one package for that ridiculous price is incredible.
The V collection.
The V collection, all the clones from all the stuff that we wished we'd had in our hands back in the day, like CS80s and Fairlights and stuff like that. It's all there.
I bought it. Back in the early 2000s.
I bought it from day one as well.
Yeah.
But not only is there a lot more to it now, there's obviously a lot more synths involved, but the software itself has got better. The actual cloning of the sound has got way better.
Do you know, side note, I'll say it to this camera, side note, the only software plugins that I actually use are the Arturia ones. But that's neither here nor there. Oh, shut up. Sorry.
We should get paid now. We'll be both going for it now.
But what about, I know you also have a lot of the Arturia hardware as well.
I do. Again, because I just fell in love with that company on every level. I love that Matrix Brute. I first bought a mini Brute, which sounded fantastic, very dirty, very evil. Then they came out with a Matrix Brute, and I couldn't resist again for the price for what you got. And then the Poly Brute again blew me away again. It's a polyphonic synth with my favourite new little function where it actually morphs. It's an analog synth. You can morph between two sounds,
two presets,
but all the way.
Yes.
Everything in between. With an analog synth, digitally that was already possible.
Yes.
But with an analog synth, that's unheard of. That was incredible.
So that's
I loved it, and it not only does it with a twisty knob, you can also do it on the pads. I'm doing the twisting, but there's also a touchpad that you can suppress or you can XYZ it, and it's like so you've got a 3-dimensional touchpad that does all that as well, which is just what's going on there? How good is that? So yeah, I mean, and obviously I love my old Moogs as well, and I still love my old school gear, but the new school stuff, yeah, some of it's really out there. Also digital stuff. I mean, it's not just. I saw you've got one of these. I don't know if you can point the camera to this thing.
Oh, the
Quantradid Swarm.
Can you pull it down? It's not plugged in. Just pull it down for a second.
I don't want to. Yeah.
Pull it down.
So we're looking at this thing. I got one of these recently. Well,
can you pronounce it?
Well,
because you are from. You're from the country.
I don't think it's in any specific language. It's called a quadrantid, or quadrantide en français because it's French made.
Right. Yes.
Quadrantid Swarm, and it's basically digital.
Yes.
But how the hell does that sound? How good is that?
Well, it's digital, but it has 2 analog filters.
Yes.
Right, which are based on the MS-20.
And a spring verb.
Yes.
So it's got some analog components in there. But, oh my God, how good does that sound? And how do you know, whenever you start, where you're going to end? You just don't. You just don't know where you're going to end up.
Oh, well, it's perfect for me.
Exactly.
I have no
we love not knowing where we're going to end up. Exactly. That's it. That's the most fun thing about it.
Show them to the camera again. There you go. I'll put it up on slide as well. One more question. What haven't you done musically or creatively that you would still like to do or achieve? I know these are hard-hitting questions, aren't they?
Well, it's not about want to achieve. It's more about what I would like to be. I mean, I can't read music yet. I never learned to read music. Did you?
I have no formal musical training, and my music theory comes from electronic dance music. It doesn't come from this traditional form of music.
I hear you, but your question was, what haven't you? And all those avenues, I feel I've sort of explored all the things I can do, and there's still plenty of music to be made, and there's still all kinds of stuff I want to achieve, like you said. But what I genuinely would think I still would like to do, I would literally like to be able to properly play a piano whilst reading some sheet music. I just think that would be something. I mean, I'm surrounded by people all the time that can, but don't do what we do. And
I get that, but I'm now going to push you because you've now touched a sore point with me. Okay, so everyone, please sit down, grab a cup of tea. This could take a while. What do you? And I'm being actually serious, right? What do you think? And I'm playing devil's advocate, as you know. I don't mean it in a nasty way. But what do you think having that skill or that technique will give your music moving forward?
I think it'll just give me more pleasure in the studio, because I love the random factor that we constantly are, exploring every day.
Well, yeah,
when we don't know where we're going to go.
Exactly.
But oftentimes I've got stuff in my head, melody wise or chords wise, and I can't get them out there properly because we never trained to do that. I don't know. It's like I said. You asked the question, what haven't you, or what do you still want?
Well, that's.
I feel as though that might be. I'll probably never get around to it because I'm too busy tweaking these knobs. But it's just one of those things that seems like it would be nice. It would be nice to have that level of control as well.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Well, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's completely subjective. I will accept your response. I have to because I'm polite.
I'll upset him now.
No, I just, for me, and it's not about me. I'm saying I don't quite understand it because the technology that surrounds us gives me that access. And for me, a great outcome is not based on a set of code or rules. Now,
it's not about the great outcome for me either. It's just literally about the moment of pleasure whilst in the studio, of being to translate whatever's happening in your brain straight to the recording. And in many ways we've mastered that, even with the more random type machinery that we use. We've gotten so acquainted, we've gotten so used to using them that we can I pretty much know what's going to come out of my 303 when I'm programming. I pretty much know what's going to happen with any of these machines because we know what we're doing. We've been doing it for so long. But once I've got something, I don't know, melodic going on and I want to get it out, it's still a bit of a struggle.
No, I appreciate that.
After a long time in this business, you would think but we've just evolved in other ways. We didn't evolve in that way. And I've just like you, never considered that. Well, I never considered it important for what we do, but I think it would give me pleasure.
And I think that's the key takeaway, because it is something that will make you happy.
Yeah.
Or you think it'll make you happy. Whereas for me, I don't think it'll make me happy.
Yeah.
All I need to get is more machines or more modules, right?
Where are you going to put them?
I don't need anything else. You know what I mean? This is just like I've been fortunate that I didn't sell everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so this is a culmination of 30 odd years.
Cool.
And working in the industry now. Well, there are certain you got
a nice little set, mate.
Is this all right?
It's looking pretty sweet.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Christian.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
David.
I appreciate your time and your candidness, and that you didn't punch me in the face either.
Yet. On camera. And also Raphael, my son, adores you, and he's banging on the door outside wanting to make music with CJ again. So I might have to show them some of that. Let's do it.
So thanks, CJ.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Until next time. Thanks, everyone. You know where all the links and things that you might have to do or not have to do. And I'll be back with more sometime in the future. Adios.
Now you talk about me.
So how about your work, Raphael?
It's going amazing. It's really, 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 really amazing. You should check it. I have a YouTube channel, and everything was good. Everything was good. So, how's Honeysmack going for you, CJ?
Everything was good.
Yeah,
everything was good.
Everything, man.
Honeysmack, everything was good.
Yeah, Honeysmack.